what it's like dating the narcissistic woman. If you have dated anybody who is narcissistic or has narcissistic traits, at the end of the relationship, you probably felt demasculated. You probably felt completely stripped of your identity. All your energy was gone. It was almost like a succubus. They have stolen your energy. Now, what is the energy of someone who has narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality? So there are clear signs. One is they lack empathy. Like, if you are being impacted by their actions, they just cannot connect with your pain. It's like their needs over you, always. And it's because they have a really big ego, and their ego needs constant validation. Their ego feels like they're better than other individuals. It's like they are a priority in the relationship, and that's how they kind of establish control. And that is the narcissistic individual. They need to have control in the relationship. So if you've ever been in a relationship as a man, they are the masculine in the relationship, and you are the person following. And another thing is that they really lack accountability, and they hate criticism. So if you ever bring something, if you're ever hurt by them, or if you were cheated on, you bring that to them, they will not take accountability at all. So I'm gonna take you on a little bit of a ride about my story of this relationship. And it all started with the love bombing stage, right? It's like any relationship that's healthy always moves slowly. And this, right off the bat, was really intense. There was just a lot of admiration towards me, and a lot of saying things like, oh my gosh, you're so perfect, and you're so handsome, you're so just showering me with things. So I thought it was like very, passionate and intense. Yeah, this is a way to actually start to establish control. And within the first couple months, I was cheated on. And this is a way to devalue you as a man, because there's this sense of hot and cold energy. So it's like, it's feeling like you're so important, and this passion, and all of a sudden it's just stripped away. And people with narcissistic traits tend to prey on individuals with very low self-esteem. So hence me during the time. And it was interesting because I had no idea what was happening in that moment. We had made an agreement, because we were both in an open relationship at the time, meaning it's like, hey, if you wanted to see other people, we were allowed to, but you had to check in with your partner first. And she ended up having another experience without checking in with me. And this is when the gaslighting starts, where they start to trick you on your remembrance of actual reality. And when she came back and she told me that she had another experience with other people, I got pissed off, and I was like, you cheated on me. Like, you completely cheated on me. And she used her charm and was like, no, I didn't cheat on you, X, Y, and Z, and gave me all this all this excuse of why I wasn't cheating. And the thing is, with people with narcissistic traits, they're very convincing. They're very good at what they do. So in the moment, I believed it. I was like, oh, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just my trauma. And after that, we dropped it and we moved on with our relationship. And here's another thing that happens in these relationships, is that there is breadcrumbing. So they're just giving you just enough to stay in the relationship, to keep you chasing, or like hot and cold energy. I had told her at the beginning of the relationship that I'm like a monogamous guy. And at a certain point, I was like, hey, I'm not sure if I can do this any longer. Like, I would like to close it. If not, then I'm gonna dip. And she was like, all right, like, I'm down to close it. Like, I think a day or two later, she was like, oh, by the way, like, I'm going to this like sexuality retreat, and like, I want to have other experiences, so I don't want to be monogamous with you anymore. So it's like this ripping of foundation from underneath me, and it's like, I'm just like, oh, it was so destabilizing. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I, foolish of me to like try it out. And there was a part of me that was like, okay, let's just kind of like test this out. Like, I told her, you can go to this retreat. And I didn't tell her, but I was like, if she was going to have an experience, like that was going to be like my evidence that to not stay with her. I was going to see if she was like really into me. and she ended up not doing anything at the retreat. And there was some more hot and cold energy. At a certain point, we were really, at least I was feeling love very deeply with her. And at a certain point, I asked her, I was like, hey, would you be open to being my girlfriend? And she immediately says yes. And I was like really happy. And there's this like intense love in between like the breadcrumbing and like the pulling away of the foundation. So when it was going well, I was like, well, let's lock it down. And I remember at a certain point that I was like, yeah, like you're my girlfriend, right? And just like saying something like around that. And she was like, no, like I'm not your girlfriend. You're my boyfriend, but like I'm not your girlfriend. And it was just like another hot and cold energy, right? And it's just a way that someone who's narcissistic, it keeps you hooked, like, right? It's like they'll love bomb you. There's like give you all this shower of attention. It's intense, and then they'll like rip away the foundation by saying things like this, by closing the relationship and then opening it back up. And this is just like my experience of what I experienced from this. And the reason why it's so addicting, because it's such on a chemical level. When it's high, right, the passion is so intense, and then when it drops, it gets super low. And so when you go back up, like there's just, it's like a euphoria feeling, but this euphoria feeling is actually a trauma bond that's happening. And that's essentially what was happening, right? Like I have my own responsibility of staying too long and like being blind to what was happening. I understand that, but I'm also making this video so there's deeper understanding to what happens during these relationships. And some time kind of passed, and we were still kind of open. And that's me not really valuing myself and staying in this open relationship and being hooked in this trauma bond and being chemically like addicted to the highs and lows. She ended up having another experience with another individual without checking in again. And that was another level of cheating that I got to experience, and I got to see it firsthand, which was very scarring for me. And that's the thing around that experience. It was like I was totally gaslit. And that experience of me feeling completely heartbroken and betrayed in her mind, like her ego's like I didn't do anything wrong, like I'm like you didn't check in, and it's just like this whole thing, and just like another devaluing stage of feeling just so emasculated and just like completely disrespected. And so I had two experiences of being cheated on underneath my belt, and there was no accountability whatsoever, no taking of responsibility or even repair. So when there's such a lack of repair in the relationship, especially with cheating, the person who is victimized is going to be anxious, right? There's going to be a lack of safety. And so I was just constantly, in the year to 2 years I was with her, just constantly anxious and just constantly in fear of that she was going to have another experience without checking in and taking responsibility. I was so blind that I was still staying and trying to fix it and trying to make the relationship work. And that's the people pleasing in me, the nice guy in me, that I believe that us nice guys, people are very empathetic, come into contact with these narcissistic individuals so we can learn how to stand up for ourselves, so we can learn how to have boundaries and to say no, and actually to learn how to walk away from people who are taking our energy. And that's the messed up thing, right? As I look back on the relationship, was like I was totally committed from the jump, right? And she got the benefit of the doubt, right? She got the benefit of having a completely dedicated partner, right? Like I'm completely monogamous to her. My heart is fully open. She's having other experiences. And so it's almost like I'm being used. I am being used. Like she's siphoning my energy from someone who's completely dedicated to her, and she gets to have all these experiences, not take responsibility, and I'm trying to save the relationship. And like I'm the one doing all the emotional work, trying to like repair the relationship, and it's just like I'm holding the relationship emotionally. And the hardest part was like underneath all of her open energy, there was a part of her that I got to really see, and this is the part that really hooked me, was there was a person underneath that mask who truly wanted monogamy, who truly wanted a family, who truly wanted a traditional life with a partner. And that's what kind of made me like stay in the relationship, because there's this like part of me that wants to save her and to help her heal, because you know, we had such, when her heart was open and when her heart was with me, because there was, you know, her heart opening and closing to me, there was this like actual deep love and sprinkles of commitment in waves with her, and I felt that. So that's what also kind of like had me hooked, was just like dating someone on potential. And that's I've learned the hard way to never date someone on potential. And so when her heart would open and she was like, yeah, like I do want a family, and I do want just like to be with a partner, and as her heart slowly started to open, she was like, all right, I'm ready to commit. And I was like, oh, finally, like finally. So we ended up closing the relationship and went monogamous. And she would say things like, you know, I wanna marry you, I wanna have your kids, I want you to meet my family. And I was like, okay, like this is good. Like I'm finally getting her to commit. And this is also part of the breadcrumbing stage, the hot and cold still. Like she would say these things, but when things would get hard, when things would, you know, start to hit the fan, she would say things, oh, I don't think we're good for each other. I don't think this is gonna work, right? Like she would say that over and over again. And she actually, you know, she would say both of those things of like, yeah, I want to do this with you, like let's do this together. And it'll be like, oh no, like she ended up breaking up with me at a certain point too, and I like tried to fix it and hold it together. So there was always this like promise of, hey, I'm doing this with you, and then it being taken away, because you know, people who are narcissistic tend to be a little bit emotionally immature, so they're kind of ran by their emotions. So when it's getting hard, it's like they're believing their emotions, they're believing this thought process of like, you know, oh, maybe this isn't meant to work, right? And that's the confusing part of, you know, dating someone who has narcissistic traits, of like whether it's malicious or unconscious. Like it's a roller coaster ride for us who are on that experience with them. And I wanted to also talk about, you know, sex with someone who has narcissistic traits, or someone who is sleeping with someone who, you know, has that energy. Sex with someone who has narcissistic traits, or with a narcissist, is the most mind-blowing sex that you will experience, and I'm gonna tell you why. When you hit the lowest of lows, with the hot and cold, with the breadcrumbing, with the dismissal, with the devaluing of your being, when you're having sex with them, it's the time where they are actually present with you, when their being is with you, when they're admiring you, when their heart is open, when they are fully with you, because at a subconscious level you know that they aren't when you're not having sex with them. So when they are with you fully in that experience, it's just so mind-blowing, because you're not used to getting that energy with them in the relationship. So that's why it's so mind-blowing for you. And at a certain point, she had left on a trip, and I was alone for a few weeks. And in that few weeks, I realized what was happening in the relationship. The complete disrespect of cheating on me, the complete gaslighting, telling me that wasn't cheating. And every time I brought up, you know, fear around her cheating on me, she would completely dismiss me and say things to me like, oh, you're always triggered, and it just being too much for her to handle, because deep down underneath that dismissal is their guilt and shame of what they've done. And I realized while she was away on that trip, I was like, oh my gosh, I am being completely manipulated in this relationship, and that is not cool. And I was so pissed off. And when she came back, I literally had to jujitsu her mentally, of making her see how she cheated on me, and it took like 30 minutes to an hour to make her see, like, yo, what you did was not cool. You completely committed infidelity on me. And I got her to like finally see it. Yeah, I finally got her to see and take a little bit of responsibility, but not full responsibility. And the thing is about being cheated on that most people don't understand is that in order for repair to happen after that, and you know, looking back on it, I should not have stayed, but I did. And I realized like that's a big value of mine. If I'm cheated on, like I'm freaking dipping. It takes years for that person to heal. It takes years for that person to heal with a partner, but only if that partner is willing to look at themselves. And someone who has narcissistic traits, they're not looking at themselves fully. They have a hard time admitting that they're wrong. They have a hard time being with the guilt and shame of their actions. And so, you know, there wasn't full responsibility in that. And they weren't able to be with that complete storm and hurricane that they created in the relationship. And, you know, being in that same energy, I tried to repair it. I tried to see her, try to teach her how to repair, and it was just beyond her capacity to emotionally to do that. And I really started to find out towards the end of the relationship when I broke up with her that I was really being used and really not being committed to like the way that she was supposedly saying, and it really just woke me up. Towards the end of the relationship, I realized a few things. That we were together for about a year and a half, a little bit over. I was never once posted on her social media, never saying that I was her boyfriend, never saying that, you know, she was in love, you know, like she claimed. And that just felt like a complete slap to the face. Just like, I'm being hid. Like this isn't commitment. And I realized also we would host events together, that when we would have these big events and she would have friends that would come over, I was never really introduced to her friends. Like there was a part of her, for whatever reason, that didn't want to introduce me to my friends. And that right there, I was like, yo, if you're proud of your partner, you're gonna introduce them to your family, you're gonna introduce them to your friends. And right then and there, I was like, man, this isn't commitment. Like this, I'm being used. I'm fully committed. I'm trying to save the relationship. I'm trying to like fix the crazy tornado that she's created. And here I am being completely disrespected, of not being introduced to her friends and like not even being posted after a year and a half. And I was like, I am done. Like I told her, I was like, I'm done. I'm breaking up with you. I can't do this anymore. And the one thing that someone with narcissistic traits hates is they hate losing control. They hate losing access to you. And so if you break up with someone who has narcissistic traits, it is a shitstorm for them. And they may not come out and say it, but they are struggling internally with that rejection, because one of the ways narcissistic individuals are created is through really deep rejection from their caregivers. And you know, the next couple months after the breakup was complete hell for me, because I really started to process more and more and more how I was manipulated and used and just disrespected and demasculated, and just like realizing the parts of myself that would tolerate such little, just such disrespect and such just, man, just she was just like not objectively a great partner at all to me. Was she nice here and there? Sure, but like as a romantic partner to create emotional safety, like complete, like one of the worst partners I've ever had. And that was a huge wake-up call to show me where I lack self-worth and where I lack boundaries and where I don't stick up for myself, and how much I will take to get some love. And it really just showed me where I'm lacking in my character. And it was a really hard 3-4 months, like the worst I've ever felt in my life, when it came to suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety. And it was just complete non-stop darkness moving through my system. And they do something after that called hoovering. And hoovering is a technique for them to try to get access to you again. So, after months has passed, she told me she wanted to have a conversation. And, she apologized for everything that she did. And I remember before we broke up, she was like, you know what, maybe in the future we can work things out. Maybe now is not the right time. And when we talked, months and months later, we confessed we were both in love with each other. And she started like showering me with compliments, like calling me attractive and sexy, which she never did throughout the relationship. Like she never really, like, I was starved of like words of affirmation, and all of a sudden it starts to happen. She tells me like, I've been loyal. I feel like I've been loyal to you even after the breakup, and is buttering me up essentially. And we end up, having sex a few times, and then I realized, I felt into my body. I was like, I don't trust this woman. And I go, yo, what are we doing? Like, are we fixing this? Are we planning to fix this? Like, what's all this energy coming towards with apology and telling me that you're loyal to me still and all this stuff? I was like, are we fixing this? And I was at her house, and she goes, no, I'm too scared to fix this. I don't want to fix this. And it was in that moment, I really sank into my body. I was like, this woman is so manipulative. This woman is just saying anything she can to get my energy again. Because here's the thing, when someone who has narcissistic traits comes across a very loving, open-hearted empath, they have never been loved in that way before. And so they want that like they've always wanted that energy from their parents, and they're getting it from, their partner. So she used all these manipulation tactics, said all the good stuff, said out, the apology, the I'm still loyal to you, all the affirmations I never got to receive after a year and a half, just to get access to me again. And in that moment, I was so heated. I was at her house. I wanted to cuss her out. And I just looked at her and completely walked away, stormed out of the house, and haven't spoken to her since. And it's been months since I have spoken to her. And I realized that woman has a succubus energy. She just wants access to me without responsibility. She wants access to me without treating me right. And it's like, no, you don't have the emotional capacity to repair this. You don't treat me with respect. You manipulate me, you use me. And I'm like, I'm done. So I still see her from time to time. I just don't even acknowledge her presence. And what's even crazier about this, there's even more steps to their plan. And every narcissistic individual has very same like actions. So afterwards, they are scared. Like, remember I said, their ego is really huge. So they're going to do everything in the power to protect their image. And since this individual cheated and gaslighted and used and completely made a mess, what they do immediately is do something called a smear campaign. So what they do is they go to all the friends in our inner circle, and they start to change the story. It'll probably still be some truth to that, but change the story like I was the bad individual. I'm the one who was toxic. I'm the one who caused the problems, and start to get individuals who will enable her actions. And that smear campaign is hard because people will look at you differently without getting your side of the story, and they will judge you. And I end up getting kicked out of a community without even like hearing my side of the story. So they're very good at what they do. The manipulation still goes on after, just to save their butt, to save their behind. And I knew this was happening because it was confirmed by a multitude of friends who told me like, yo, she's doing this, she's like, you know, slandering your name. One of my good friends, she was like, yo, she came up to me and like, you know, said all this stuff about you, and like he was like, yo, I've been your friend for like 7-8 years, like that's not who you are. And I'm just like hearing all these stories. And yeah, and I was like, man, this woman is a piece of work. And I knew when that disrespect happened, I was like, yeah, like she ain't never getting a piece of me again. Like that is some childish shit. Like I really got to see the immaturity of someone with narcissistic traits. And it's like, and there's still more to the story, so stay with me. There's something that happens afterwards. Like they can't be with their pain. They can't. They have to distract themselves. They have to, you know, numb the pain. So it's very typical for them to go to the next partner. And that's exactly what she did. And sometimes the person who's narcissistic will do something to try to get a reaction from you. And I believe there's a little bit of truth to both of this. Like she's using another partner to numb her pain, and also to try to get a rise out of me. So, and that's the thing with a narcissist, someone with narcissistic tendencies or personality disorder, they thrive off your reaction. They thrive off your reaction makes them be in control. She ends up dating one of my friends, and I get other calls and messages from other friends are saying like, hey, like, can I date your ex? And other people are saying like, hey, I messed around with your ex. Like, is that cool? And I'm just like, oh, like 3 guys, cool. And I knew in that moment, just like, man, this woman's character, like I didn't think this was her. Like, and it made me realize like the level of immaturity, the level of wounding on this woman, the level of like her mask that was on during the relationship was pretty scary. And those friends, the one friend who asked if he can date my ex because there was something going on between them, I told him, I was like, hey bro, you can do whatever you want, but straight up, we would not be friends. And I told him right to his face. And he was like, oh. And then he like, you know, he ended up, he's like, yo, I really value this friendship. Like, and so he stepped away from that, which I appreciated, and we've been repairing the relationship. But the other 2 dudes, I was like, yo, cut off just completely. I was like, yo, that's the way I move as a man, like that's completely disrespect. And so, I know that was a lot, but that is my my story around dating the narcissistic woman. And I know that was partly intense, and you could probably resonate with a lot of that stories, and the same goes for women who are dating narcissistic men. It's very similar, and all of them have very similar personality traits and a very similar organized plan, whether it's conscious or unconscious, whether it's malicious or just simply just emotional immaturity. It's all the same. And the integration for me is really just feeling the intense emotions around betrayal and sadness and confusion and grief and all this stuff. And those emotions are teaching me how to step into my power, how to have boundaries, how to really integrate discernment, and to really know when somebody is not reciprocating my energy. And that is the biggest lesson for an empath, is to realize that people pleasing is taking away from us. So the integration moving forward, I've been celibate ever since, just to like regain my energy, because she took so much of my energy. I'm building up my energy, and when I do date, to really take things slow, to really learn to take what I learned from this relationship that was very narcissistic, and to make sure that if I see any of these traits, that it's a complete no. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story, and I'm pretty sure you can resonate. You guys stay safe out there.